Hi, gang. Let's review first Anne Bradstreet's background, and I'll give you some test hints, even though I didn't make the test up yet. Okay, the fact that she was really the first notable American poet, regardless of gender, is noteworthy, especially the fact that she's a woman. That makes it even more impressive because women were not encouraged to improve their minds or express their ideas. So the fact that she was well educated and is America's first noteworthy poet, there's something huge to be said about that. Okay? As far as the next section, she had a good education, okay, and a privileged upbringing because of her family's wealth. Coming to America was a reality check for her. She wasn't quite prepared. And her profound religious faith helped her endure the hardships of the New World. And of course, her writing was also an outlet. Okay? Now, as far as the topics in her poems, everyday realities of life. Her husband, her kids, her house burning. Those are the topics on which her poems are based. Okay, so in our second page of our PDF, we did go over these different types of figurative language, so make sure you review those. Maybe I would give you a passage on the test and say, is this a metaphor, extended metaphor? Is this an example of personification, or is it hyperbole? Okay. We talked about the fact that older poetry contains syntax that's unfamiliar to us. Okay. And we said that syntax is basically the way sentences are built. The order in which words are assembled. Because with a poem, we might not always have complete sentences. So for this, we're looking at the order in which words were put together. I'm going to write assembled. And you might hear some doors closing. You might hear kids asking me questions because I'm working on this during class. So just ignore those things. And my kiddo's working. If they need something, I'll address it and we'll just come back afterwards. Okay, so you're going to have archaic language, words that we don't really use anymore. They're out of date. Maybe the most widely used meaning during Puritan times is not the most widely used meaning during our time if the word is still around. Okay, that's going to sometimes throw off our comprehension a little bit, so we have to make way for that. And inverted syntax might be something like...
May I go read my book?
Yeah, go ahead. Instead of saying, I go to the store, inverted syntax might read something like, to the store I go. Or even to the store go I. Okay, so those would be examples of inverted syntax. And maybe when you're reading the poem, you just highlight that passage and you have the ability with Cami to write rephrasing right above Anne Bradstreet's passage and then use your rephrasing. That might simplify comprehension there. Okay, so her first poem that we talked about is To My Dear and Loving Husband. And, sorry, I was still on my pen there. Okay, move that around. Get those marginal questions up there. The first thing we did here was we wrote the word you or your above all of the thee, thys, and thines. Your love is such I can no way repay. Okay, and then we also took something like doth and we wrote does. Okay. And you should have all of those annotations already, sorry about that, already on your passage, because we did that during class. So that's where taking your notes becomes ever so important. So she's writing, of course, to her husband. And she says, if ever two were one, then surely we. If ever man were loved by wife, then thee. If ever wife was happy in a man, compare with me, ye woman, if you can. I prize your love more than whole mines of gold, or all the riches that the east doth hold. My love is such that rivers cannot quench, nor aught but love from thee give recompense, or that is repayment. Your love is such that I can no way repay. The heavens reward you manifold, or many, many times I pray. Then while we live in love, let's so persevere that when we live no more, we may live ever. So let's scroll down and get our notes written up above there as well. Recompense is repayment. I told you that. Persevere would have rhymed with ever. And it's basically let's keep on keeping on. I always think of that in terms of persevere. Okay, persevere. Same word, different pronunciation, and you know what it means to persevere. Her pronunciation is just persevere, and so the pronunciation has changed over time. That's all that is. All right, you can never just read it once. Let's go back and read it with some additional things that might help. Like if ever two were one, then surely we are. If ever man were loved by wife, then you certainly are. If ever wife was happy in a man, compare with me that woman, or your woman if you can. I prize your love more than whole mines of gold, or all the riches that the east does hold. My love is such that rivers cannot quench or lessen my thirst for you, or lessen will work. Okay, to quench your thirst is to satisfy. Okay, so we could say satisfy there. Nor aught but love from you give recompense. I can't ever repay you for your love. The heavens, I hope, will reward you. I pray that. So while we live in love, let's so persevere or keep on persevering so that when we live no more, we may live forever. Okay? And it asks you then in marginal question A for examples of hyperbole used to emphasize her feelings. Okay? For those, I would say look in lines, and I can't see my line numbers because I'm covered with my menu, but I'll just highlight them. Switch to the right tool. I'll highlight them. Here's your hyperbole, and you should have notes to help you figure out what the exaggeration is. You know, rivers cannot satisfy my love for you. Rivers, and that's a lot of water, okay? So use your notes from class to help there. And at the end, use conventional word choice for lines 11 and 12, and those are just the last two lines that I at least remember. Okay, she says, then while we live in love, let's so persevere. Let's keep on persevering while we live in our love, so that when we live no more, we may live forever. So what does that line go over to be? What does that suggest about earthly love versus eternal love? And again, you can look at your notes. We said that she believes that love can live on after death. Okay, we said that in class. So let's do a quick rereading of my house. Do you guys need anything? Is this bugging you? Okay. All right, so she says that in silent night when I took rest, for sorrow near, I did not look. I didn't expect it. I wakened it was with thundering noise and piteous shrieks of dreadful voice. That fearful sound of fire and fire. Let no man know is my desire. Now, we talked about those lines in class. We said that fire makes a sound. You know, if you have a house burning down, there is a roar to that. And we were confused a little bit because the way it reads, kids always have the question, did she want her house to burn down? Was that her desire? And the answer is no. There was something else she wanted to hide from the Puritan community, and that was that she felt sorrow over the loss of her material goods. She didn't want anyone to know that her desire was to keep her house and her material goods therein, because as a Puritan, material wealth was supposedly not important, although you remember sometimes there's contradiction in their society in that people who were wealthy were thought to be favored by God. So, you know, you kind of have to reconcile those contradictions, okay? She started up, and the light did spy, and to my God did hear, and to my God my heart did cry, to strengthen me in my distress, and not to leave me without help. Then coming out of the house, I beheld a space. The flame consumed my dwelling place. And when I could no longer look at my house burning, I blessed God's name, because it's his job to give and take. He laid my goods now in the dust, and so that was, and so 'twas just. That's sort of her version of it is what it is, and I just have to accept it. My house and my material goods were God's own. My house was not mine. So I really should not repine or complain or feel sorrow over the loss of these things, upon the burning of. Okay. He might have all justly bereft, but yet sufficient for us left. Okay. So you look up the word bereft. Okay. And you write that it's lacking, it's barren, something's been taken. He might have all justly or rightly. If something is just, it is right. It's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so he might have rightly taken my things. He left me sufficient things, and there's your inversion, your inverted language. Yet sufficient for us left becomes he left enough for us. He left what was sufficient. But when often I passed the ruins of my house, I still felt sorrow, and my eyes looked to the side and cast upon my house. And here and there I looked at the places. I spied the places where often I sat, or where I long did lie. And a colon always tells you, here it comes. So she says, often I looked at the house, and I looked at the places. I spied the places where I often sat and long did lie. And here it comes, a list of those places, a list of those things that she looked at when she saw the ruins of her house. She said, here stood that trunk. Over there was where I had my chest. Over there lay the store I counted best. My pleasant things in ashes lie, and then behold, no more shall I. And there's your inverted language. And then I behold them no more. And now she starts to talk to the house. She says, under your roof no guest shall sit, nor at your table eat a bit. No pleasant tale is ever going to be told, nor things recounted done of old. No candle ever shall shine in your window, nor bridegroom's voice ever heard shall be. In silence ever shall you lie. And then she goes, you know what? Adieu, adieu. Goodbye, goodbye. All is vanity. Now you look down to your note, and it's her reference to her Puritan faith. Material wealth is temporary, and it really has no meaning. Okay? So we said you have an answer to your marginal question D. I'll let you look for that in your notes. So straight, then she said, I begin my heart to chide or chastise. I think I'm spelling that wrong. Chastise. I'm not sure about the spelling on chastise for some reason. Let me look it up real quickly. Let's see. Yeah, it's the SE. Sorry, my instinct was right, and then I thought, wait, that doesn't look right. Okay, but you and I have met, and you know I do that all the time. I just cannot find my eraser very quickly, so I'm going to just cross out my Z and make it an S. Okay, sorry about that. So she starts to chastise her heart, and you have a note on that. And a better word I should have given you is scold. Okay, if I chastise my class, I scold you. So she starts to scold her, let's put it in red, her heart. She scolds her heart for feeling sorrow at this loss. Okay, and she says to her heart, did your wealth on earth abide? Okay, heart, you're a Puritan. Is your wealth on earth? And the answer is no. As a Puritan, your wealth is in heaven. Everything is about the end game. Heaven is the goal. Okay? So she continues to talk to her heart and says, did you fix your hope on moldering dust, things that were meaningless? The arm of flesh, is that what you were trusting in? Raise up your thoughts above the sky to heaven. Dunghill mists away may fly. These things, these earthly things may fly away. They're meaningless and they can be taken. She says still to her heart, to herself, if you will, you have a house on high erect, framed by that mighty architect, which is capitalized, so that's a reference to God, we said. It's gloriously furnished, and it stands permanent, though these earthly items are gone. They have fled. My house in heaven is purchased and paid for too by God, who has enough to do. And life with God is a price so vast that it's yet unknown. But by God's gift, it can be made ours. It can be made your own. Okay, still talking to her heart. There's wealth enough. I really need no more. Farewell my wealth or riches. Farewell my store or all my things. The world no longer let me love. My hope and treasure lies above. Okay, let me no longer love the world, because everything I do is about getting to heaven. Okay? And remember, when you're reading poetry, if you get to the end of a line, like that second to last line, it's only a comma, you only pause like a normal comma. Okay? Remember, when you read poetry, look at this line 49. Let me switch a color here. Look at line 49. There's no punctuation here at the end. So you just say a price so vast a price so vast as is unknown, yet by his gift is made thine own or your own. Okay? Thee, thy, thine, it's always your or you or yours. So when there's no punctuation, you run those two lines right together. Okay? Remember to study those examples of figurative language, except especially extended metaphor. Take care. If you have any questions, let me know.